Hey everybody. How you doing?
What's up?
Who's that?
What's going on? It's boy Mr. Locario, the bad boy of the dating game. Chilling with my dude Caleb. How you doing, man?
How you doing?
I'm good.
We finally did this.
Yes, we finally got together, to work on some stuff, man. We just did a great seminar. It was awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, good time.
I'm glad that, you invited me out here to do this. You know what I'm saying? So
Only 14,000 people asked me to invite you.
Oh, word.
It's only about 14,000 guys. When are you going to talk to Miss Locario? When are you going to have Miss Locario? Like, yes. And I told you that I had a bunch of guys kind of planned out for this in order of what I wanted, but you were the number one on the list.
Right.
And I always had to add extra guys because usually when you have guys come to these events, they can't come, or they don't want to come, or their wives won't let them come.
Right.
But this is one of the few times for a guest speaker I got the number one guy I wanted for this event.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate that. I actually wanted to ask you, though, something, because I'm going to put this on my channel, too. I wanted to ask you, what's the difference between an alpha male and then you talk about alpha male 2.0 for those who might not know? Just give them a little.
Yeah, so the summary is alpha male 1.0 is the typical alpha male that, you and I have seen 1,000 times in the movies, on TV shows. He's the big, tough, cool guy.
Right.
He's masculine. He's good looking, maybe. He's tough, he's strong, he's confident, he's powerful, but he's got a lot of drama.
Right.
He's got a lot of problems. He gets in a lot of arguments.
Right.
Sometimes physical altercations. There's all kinds of challenges. So he lives a life of up and down happiness. He lives a good life, but he's got so many problems he has to drop down into happiness a lot.
Right.
So the graph for the alpha male 1.0 looks like this in terms of happiness. Alpha male 2.0 is just like the alpha male 1.0, except he doesn't give a shit.
Right.
He doesn't care what you do. He doesn't care what you do with your time.
Right.
He's focused on himself and his inner circle. So he doesn't care to tell women he dates what to do, or he doesn't have employees, or if he has employees, I have a staff of 17-ish people. I don't really tell them what to do. I just say, here's the work, get it done by this, do it. I don't care how you do it, when you do it, I don't give a shit. I don't want to tell people what to do.
Right.
So that way you can maintain that happiness level at a high level almost consistently.
Right.
By just removing this, I give a shit about what people think, I give a shit about what people do, I have to tell women what to do, I have to tell my friends what to do, and I don't know if you notice, people don't do what they're told anyway.
Right. They do what they want to do.
Right.
So I think that's like a more evolved way to look at things too, because a lot of times, especially when we talk about game and talk about like dealing with women, I think a lot of guys, they get so frustrated because they try to control a woman all the time, and they're like, well, let me see Instagram, let me see what you're doing right here, and it's like, you're stressing yourself out for nothing, because the thing is that, I always say to guys, look, understand what you want to do as a man, and then find women who want to cooperate with what you're doing. That's how I look at it. Find the women who want to cooperate with what you're doing, and then your life will
already the way you like.
Exactly.
So you don't have to mold or form or train women or that bullshit.
Right.
Then it's so much easier. Yes. Or what I do is you date a gamut of women, and you let the best ones rise to the top.
Exactly.
That works really well. That's how I found my wife. I mean, I didn't go off and try to pick off the perfect woman. It was a gamut. I just watched them and saw what they did without telling what to do. And the best one always right? The best one always rises to the top.
True.
Or the best ones, if you want several. It's fine.
That is true.
Way easier.
It's interesting. I wanted to ask you this too, because since I know that you promote like non-monogamous lifestyle, right? And so people that know me, they know that I'm also non-monogamous. But what I find interesting is that, when you talk to guys online or just like in these spaces or whatever, they can't wrap their heads around that. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of people think that, monogamy is the way or the only way. So I know you have strong opinions on monogamy not working at all. So
strong opinions.
Because I want to know what your strong opinions on that, because I have some 2 cents for that too. That's what it is.
So my strong opinions about monogamy not working?
Yes.
So the stats are very, very obvious, and your own experience is, if you just look at the world, how many relationships do you see that are 100% monogamous, last 57 years?
Right.
I mean, how many? I mean, we're not talking about marriage, we're talking about girlfriend-boyfriend relationships.
Right.
So something like 85% of all girlfriend and boyfriend, well, I don't know the percentages on that, but the real divorce rate is 76% in terms of your odds of getting divorced, and that's artificially low. It's actually higher.
Right.
That's not the per capita divorce rate, which is what people quote. Per capita divorce rate is the number of marriages and the number of divorces in a given year.
Right.
That has nothing to do with your risk of getting divorced if you're in a traditional monogamous marriage.
Right.
It's north of 76%. So clearly, if monogamy worked, okay, the norm, not rare isolated examples, the norm would be you and I both, and most men would still be married to their high school sweetheart.
Right, exactly.
If that's the way people were designed to work, you would date 2 or 3 girls in high school, maybe at most. You at 18 or 19, you'd get married, and you'd still be married to her at 40s, 50s, 60s.
Right.
Yeah,
that is
and
true.
the fact that doesn't happen should tell you something.
Right, that is true. And what's funny is that the thing with that is that a lot of times what happens is that guys, they don't understand this, and then they'll just get into a monogamous relationship and cheat. So you're doing your actions are non-monogamous, but you're cheating. So it's like it doesn't even
Right. We just talked about that a minute ago in the seminar. So if you have trouble convincing women to do this, a really easy thing to do, I've done this with many, is when you kind of lay this out for them at a certain point in the relationship, on the first date, please, down the road, when you lay this out, and they go, all you have to say is every boyfriend you've ever had has cheated on you, right?
Right.
And then they go,
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't have to really convince anybody anymore.
Right. So it's like, would you rather me cheat on you, or would you let's just keep this honest from the beginning and let's just do what we got to do?
Would you rather be with an adult who treats us as an adult? So in my opinion, the desire or the assumption that long-term monogamy works is something at an adolescent level of thinking.
Right.
That's what 15 and 16-year-olds think.
Right.
We're in love. We're going to be together forever because we're in love. And we're really in love. I've had women say this. No, Caleb, it'll work when they get monogamous with a guy.
Right.
No, Caleb, this will work. Because you know why? I'm really in love.
Right.
Right? That is what a 15-year-old see. When you see like these 16, 17-year-olds get married, that's what they say.
Right.
And so an adult says, all right, I love you, or if it's serious, I love you, I want to be with you, and I'll be with anyone else.
Right.
But we're human beings, we're designed to work in certain ways, we have physiology that's designed a certain way, we have a psychology and a brains that are designed to work a certain way. Let's be adult about this and let's figure this out.
Right.
Instead of saying, you better not ever, and I won't ever, and you roll your eyes as you say it.
That's interesting. You know what I kind of hate, and I wanted to bring this up and wanted to get your opinion on this because I always thought it's funny. So when guys talk about non-monogamy, I think about that. I always hear the word of, they'll be like, oh, well, you're a cuck, right? Now the funny part is with that nonsense is the original. So when people don't know the original definition of a cuckold is your wife was messing with another dude. She probably got pregnant, and everybody knew it except for you. You're taking care of that baby, and that's what it is. Now the updated version is. The actual definition was really like a guy who's submissive to his woman and who's watching her have sex with another guy, and he's being dominated by his woman. But they think that's the same thing as just being non-monogamous, which it's not. You know what I'm saying? So have you heard that? Have people ever said that to you? And what's your thoughts on that?
No one has said that to my face.
Right. That's true. That's true.
It's like, you really mean to say it to my face?
Right.
And I don't get a lot of that. I've had some of that. To me, a cuck, that term makes sense. If you're at home by yourself at night, all alone in the dark, and your wife or serious girlfriend is out banging a dude.
Right.
And you're sitting there on your computer playing video games, and you're scared. And you want to call that guy a cuck? That makes sense.
Right.
Sure. Does that describe you or me or the people in our audiences who follow our models at all?
Exactly.
No. What if you are dating someone as a serious girlfriend. You've had sex with 3 different women who are all 8s, 9s, and 10s the last few weeks.
Exactly.
And then she hooks up with a guy.
Right.
Are you a cuck? Does that make you a cuck?
Right.
And if so, explain. I have never heard an explanation of that.
Right. Because they think it's almost like they think you're sitting there at home in your bed crying, and you're right. And I'm like
that would be a cuck.
Right. And the thing is that when if you're a guy who has game, who's attractive, and you're going to actually have multiple women that want you, that want to engage with you, that want to have sex with you, and all this other stuff. The funny part is, what I find ironic is that the reason why they say those things is because they're coming from a beta male's mindset.
Correct.
If you're telling a guy, hey, listen, when they think about non-monogamy, first they think that the woman is the one that brought it up. That's the one. They always think that.
Right.
Two,
which is rare.
Right. Two, they thinking, oh well, if this woman's over here, I'm just gonna I'm gonna be by myself. See, that thought of I'm gonna be by myself is from a beta male mindset of a guy who doesn't know how to attract women.
Right.
You see what I mean?
If a typical man envisions himself in that scenario, that's what he would be. He would be the cuck.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why he thinks that way, and I just find it hilarious because what it is that guys who are attractive, who can attract women and attract the types of women they want to get, right? Usually they're not gonna be monogamous, because if you think about it, the guy who is choosing monogamy a lot of times is choosing monogamy out of necessity, because he feels he needs to lock her down, because it's the cheaper to keep her type of situation where it's like, well, I know I say cheaper to keep her is more of when they're talking about sex. It's like, well, I'd rather just lock this girl down for sex so I don't have to worry or try hard to get sex because it's hard for me to get sex. That's what the guy's thinking. Mm-hmm. So if he's thinking it's hard for me to get sex, of course he's going to think that if he had an open relationship or non-monogamous, that he's going to be at home crying while his woman is out, or whatever it is like that. So, but this is the thing. I think even this conversation sometimes goes over people's heads, because I feel like most people aren't at a certain level or stage to even have this type of conversation yet, which is why I actually like what you're doing, because you're bringing sort of education to this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is needed. You know what I mean?
You're right. When you come at this from a monogamy mindset, and that's all you've ever experienced, and most men, all they ever experience is one girl at a time. Maybe you cheat on her with another girl.
Right.
But to your point, years ago, when I was really crazy, I had as many as 8 women on rotation at the same time. When I was really going nuts several years ago. Do you think I gave a shit what any one of those women were doing?
Exactly.
Right. And if I did, I'd be mentally ill. Why would I even care at that point? Right. It doesn't really matter. Right. So these are all fears of people who have never actually experienced this lifestyle. And again, I'll say it again. If you have a scenario where, because there are relationships like this, unfortunately, where the woman is out getting laid, and the guy's at home taking care of the kids. Right. I've been with some women like that.
Right.
Not cheating, like open marriage, or they are cheating. The cuck moniker makes a little more sense. That's fine.
In that aspect, right.
And a lot of people who are against non-monogamy will point to what I call beta male polyamory. So you'll see these guys on documentaries where it's hilarious, and it's always the same thing. It's these two.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's these two skinny betas and this really ugly, like a 5 woman who's this dominant bitchy bitch.
Right.
And she's like, yes, these are my 2 boyfriends. It's great. And they interview them. Well, what do you think, sir? Oh, I think it's just wonderful.
Right.
I think it's great when I'm upstairs and she's having sex with him downstairs. Right. I just want her to be happy. And so the guys in the red pill world or the dating world or manosphere or what have you, who are against these models, will point to that. Say, see? Non-monogamy is for cuck betas. Right. You don't be like that.
Right. They'll look at like the goofy looking weirdo lady with her 3 boyfriends.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I've seen it 1,000 times. It's always the same thing. It's like, okay, right. You really think that's something I'm doing? You really think it's something he's doing? I know for a fact that's not what you're doing. The opposite.
Exactly.
I mean, it's so stupid. But again, if you have no context for it, you're right.
Exactly.
You're going to assume these things in advance because you're not coming out of a place from any experience.
That's crazy true. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy true. You know what I mean? But man, it's crazy though, because like I remember the first time I heard about you was I was on a live stream and somebody they hit me up. I mean, on the call they were like, "Hey, you got to check out Black Dragon blog." And I was like, "What's Black Dragon blog?" So I went to your blog and at the time, I went
How long ago was that?
This was like This probably like 4 years ago.
Okay,
that was a while ago. Yeah. And then so I went to the blog, went down the rabbit hole. I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? And so, what are some things that made you, or what are the things that got you to the level of understanding relationships, women, game, and stuff like that? Like, how much work did you put in? When did you start? When you were like, teenager, were you starting to date girls, or like, what was the thing?
So no. It was when I was in my mid-30s. Like I started very early.
Oh, so you started late.
I started very late. So I had a normal, traditional monogamous marriage. I got married stupidly when I was a young man. I was 24, 25 years old. Right. Married for about 9 years traditionally. Got a normal divorce. So I was about 35. And when the dust settled from that divorce, I sat down and said, okay, monogamy is never going to make me happy long term. Even if she's the most amazing woman on earth, I'm always going to want to hook up with other women because that's the way I'm wired. I'm a normal, healthy guy.
Right.
So I have to figure out how to make this work. I'm going to have to figure out how to date. My goal back then was to date 3 women all at the same time, and they knew I was dating other women, and they would continue to see me anyway without too much complaining about it. That was my objective. It was 2007. And so I sat down and I took a lot of stuff out of the pickup artist world, some of which worked, some of which didn't. And I started experimenting with these models over the next 2.5 years. So by the end of 2009, I had enough experiment, and I tracked all the spreadsheets and all that shit. And so by the end of 2009, I had a repeatable, reliable system where I could do this with women who had never been in non-monogamous relationships before. I didn't have Alpha 2.0 or FB or MLTR terminology down. I didn't have that terminology down yet, but it took me about 2.5 years at the point where I could reliably repeat it. I had it somewhat mastered. So by 2010, I had it down. And it took me just 2.5 years of trial and error and hard work and tracking and trying what worked, and sometimes it didn't work, and sometimes it went my face. And it's very similar to when you start a new business. You try a bunch of things you think work and it doesn't, and you keep failing until you make it work. And it took about 2.5 years. And it worked great.
I think that's a good thing, because I think a lot of people underestimate actually getting out there and doing things, so that you know what I'm saying, like, so you'll learn things. And I think a lot of times the problem with the internet guys on the internet, is you have different types of guys. You have guys on the internet that stay on the internet. And so they don't, they don't actually know what's going on out here. Then you have guys on the internet that learn, but they actually go out and do things. You know what I mean? They go out and meet people. They go out and interact. So their level of game is on a different level.
Oh my God! And the guys on the internet now, unfortunately, I don't know if you feel this way, are the norm.
Right, exactly.
It's not the fucking norm.
Right.
It's the norm of guys on the internet bitching and moaning or saying won't work or asking questions and never doing it. It's kind of depressing. I think it's getting worse.
Right, and so you have a lot of guys who have theories, but not anything like concrete. You know, they have nothing that they've done to say, hey, I've done this a few times. I went this path. This worked for me. So they don't really know. And so
or they, I don't know if you get this. I'm sure you do. Guys will say, well, if I do this, what if this happens?
Right.
And it's something you've never seen happen ever.
Exactly. Right.
I get that all the time.
This is the funny part. Guys tell me, they say, well, you shouldn't go out and approach women because you're going to get arrested and Me Too'd. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you get Me Too'd. As if you're, Tom Hanks.
Right, exactly.
What? No. Yeah, I've had that too. Well, you get Caleb, aren't you worried about Me Too?
Right.
Day game? And no, I'm not Tom Hanks.
Right. And I'm like, you're this guy that lives in this city on this avenue. No one
gives a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody's like, I've heard they say a woman's gonna call the cops. So you're trying to tell me when I approach a woman, I say, hey, how you doing? She's gonna say, sir, could you stand here and wait for? I'm gonna call the cops. Right now. Just stand here, and they're gonna come here, arrest you. What's the charge? Oh, he said hello.
Right.
Like it's like weird stuff, but that's.
But then what they'll do is they'll say, well, Caleb, Locario, if you look at this article, this guy in the UK got arrested for, all right, what have I said about scary articles? An exception to the rule and 2% rule and all that same shit. It's so dumb.
Right.
I want to ask you about your thing. So, unlike me, you have a wife and a girlfriend.
Right.
And that's not the model that I have. I have a wife and I have FBs.
Right.
So, when did you formulate that? How long ago did you formulate that?
As far as having a wife and a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Well, so what happened was, so I have a girlfriend now, April, and my wife. And
now, to be clear, if you don't know, if you're on my channel, he has a real girlfriend. He travels with her.
Exactly.
She's sitting right over there.
Exactly.
My wife is sitting over there.
They're right
there.
Right. So what's funny was that when me and my wife first got together, it was just we would see people and just hook up, kind of like we got fuck buddy type situation, right? So then I met a girl, and then we kept seeing each other. We were having sex, or whatever, but then we kept seeing each other more and more, so it was kind of like we were dating and stuff. So then when I brought that information to my wife, she kind of felt a certain type of way, like, yo, what's all this extra stuff, right? So I said, hey, listen, we're gonna switch this up a little bit, and we can go down this route, and you can also go down the same route. Now, what happened is that now my wife, at this point, she actually has a guy that she also sees. He has a boyfriend. And so I have my wife and I have my girlfriend April. So that's how it happened at that point. Now,
and how long have you been married?
7 years. We were together for 15.
So together for 15, you're married for 7.
Right.
And you've been with your girlfriend, April, for 3.
For 3 years, right.
Okay.
And I had an ex-girlfriend before that. We were together for...
So these are all long-term, even 3 years, I would consider that long-term. Compared to today.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's something that, and I think what's interesting is that, I think a lot of people, this is what I'll say. Monogamy is actually invented. I don't have to get into all that.
Yes.
But it's invented.
Yes.
But I think a lot of times what people don't understand, they look at non-monogamy as something new, and I'm like, no, it's not.
No.
It's not a new thing.
Non-monogamy
It's just
pre-existed monogamy by thousands of years.
Exactly, right. You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, I think because of how people were conditioned and were taught, that situation has made people think that monogamy is the only thing in life. You guys are doing weirdo stuff. What are you doing? It's like, no, you don't understand.
We're doing what is more natural to the male and human condition than monogamy is.
Right.
Which is hard for traditional people to hear.
Right.
But scientifically and biologically and historically, those are the facts.
Right, because like we're saying with cheating is a representation of that. Men and women both cheat.
Right.
And so what happens is that a lot of people, they'll look at it like, well, you're just not doing monogamy right. That's why you cheated. No, they cheated because they naturally wanted to, engage.
What's really funny is when they say, well, monogamy is natural.
Right.
No. Now, here's what's tricky about this. And if you talk to biologists, they'll tell you this. Human beings are, this gets interesting, human beings are biologically pair bonding creatures. We are. But we are not monogamous creatures.
Right.
So people mix that up. We're pair bonding, so we like to marry. Eventually, and I say this in my own content, I've said it 1,000 times, eventually as a man, you will want to settle down with somebody.
Right.
Maybe not marriage, but eventually at some point, post age 35, maybe well past 35, you're going to want to settle down with somebody. So we are pair bonding creatures.
Right.
But we are not monogamous creatures. So we have the pair bonding, so our biological default, at least over time, is to pair bond with someone special and then have sex with other people on the side. That's actually what you end up with if you look at biology. And what's funny is I've written articles about this. The biologists, when they say this, they say it very quietly because they're married and monogamous and they don't want their wives hearing this shit. Right, so they don't like talking about. Sometimes they're women and they don't want their husbands to talk, so they say it very quietly. But that's the model. Right, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting that it works. It's like nature is telling them the truth. Like nature is the reason why these people are cheating.
You were never designed biologically, mentally in your brain, physiologically in your body, men and women both, for long-term monogamy. Monogamy, you were designed to do that for about 2 to 3 years. If you go back to the anthropological studies, and I'm not an anthropologist, but if you look back on that, it's a function where the man, this is caveman shit, the man helped the woman raise the kid until the kid didn't need the man's help anymore. It's about 3 years till about age 3. So serial monogamy might be a little closer to the biological default, but under no model were we ever monogamous for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50, 70. We were alive for 57 years for a while.
Right. So it's like, but and it's, I think it's one of these things where I feel like people, choose what you want to do. I just feel like people need to understand what's actually going on with what they choose. And I feel like a lot of times people are going certain routes because they were just born into something. Somebody taught them to do this way, and this is how they go about it.
Or mommy and daddy wanted you to do it.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And then what happens is that we ignore, our natural inclinations of what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's just interesting.
Not to mention the fact that what we're doing is far more honest than what most men are doing in monogamous relationships and cheating.
Oh yeah.
Even if they're not cheating, having sex, even if they're on the websites talking to chicks on OnlyFans or whatever, which could be emotional cheating or whatever. What we're doing is far more honest. We don't need to lie to anybody.
Exactly.
You don't need to lie to women.
Exactly.
I don't need to lie to women.
Exactly.
Ever. For any reason. I mean, again, my wife is sitting right there. His girlfriend's sitting right there. And we're talking about this.
Exactly, right. Right. And that's the thing is that, that's less drama. And that's what we talk about a lot of times too, where it's less drama when you're just real about what it is. You know what I'm saying? I agree, man. So what else? Is there anything else we should have covered?
I want to point out the difference between my serious relationship and his serious relationship. I think it's super interesting. So there is not one model that you need to follow. Now, I teach an Alpha 2.0 model. He teaches his own model. We're pretty close to the same thing. Almost identical with some minor changes. you can customize this based on what you want. So in my material, I have FBs, NLTRs, OLTR, OLTR wife.
Right.
So you can customize this based on what makes sense for you, based on what you want as a man, how old you are, how many kids you want, what phase of life you're in, if you're a young guy or older guy. So he has a girlfriend and wife. That works great for him. I would hate it to have a girlfriend and a wife. That would drive me nuts. I would never want to do that. No. I want a wife and FBs.
Right.
So notice how different the model is, but it works for both of us.
Right.
So the beauty of this model, unlike monogamy, which is, how many different ways are there to do monogamy?
One way, right.
Okay? So that's it. You don't like that one way, you're fucked. You cheat, you get divorced, you break up, you have drama, you have problems. These models you can customize based on what you want.
Exactly.
You can be casual, you can be dating, you can be serious, you can be married, you can girlfriend, boyfriend, you can do all kinds of crap.
Do like swingers, whatever.
Swinging, which is not my thing, but that's fine.
Right. So
you can do hardcore real polyamory and be a beta male if you want. Whatever the fuck you want to do. But the point is, you can customize these things for whatever you want. Unlike monogamy is a one size fits all, which doesn't fit anybody. Long-term monogamy can work for about 6% of human beings in the Western world. It can work. But are you in that category? Probably not.
Right.
I mean, do you really want to have sex with one woman for the next 57 fucking years? Be honest.
Right.
Okay, be honest.
Right.
The answer is no. You say, well, Caleb, I don't mind being honest. She's so hot. And her blowjobs are great.
Right.
She's hot to you now.
Exactly.
Her blowjobs are great now. And will they be in 57 years? Will you feel the same way 3 years from now? Will she feel the same way in 3 years? What, women dump guys. Women divorce guys more than the other way around. So she's going to be around? Yeah.
Right.
We're not considering any of that stuff.
Right. And it's interesting that you have a lot of guys out there who call themselves alpha males, but they're the first ones that want to stick with one woman sexually.
Yep.
How does that even work?
How does that work?
I don't get that. Like, you're an alpha male, but you've made a promise to only have sex with this one woman. For what? And usually that would be her idea.
It is the ultimate beta male act.
Exactly, right.
Alpha males of history had concubines and harems, and so the act of you actually, and by the way, this reflects in her attraction over time. Right. The act of you saying, I will only have sex with you, first of all, what does that tell you as what kind of man you are?
Exactly.
And then secondly, what do you think that does to her attraction to you long term? Now initially she'll say, oh yay, long term. What do you think that does for attraction? Does it go up, down, or stay the same long term?
Exactly. Right.
Whereas your girlfriend and your wife, my wife, their attraction, but we talked about this in the seminar instead.
Right.
Their attraction for us is higher than it was when we were dating.
Right.
Try to find that in a long-term, multi-year monogamous relationship. It's super rare.
Right. That's true.
So there's a lot of other side benefits to this other than, I could have sex with multiple women.
Right, exactly.
It actually benefits the relationship in ways you haven't experienced if you've ever actually tried this stuff. Instead of bitching and moaning and saying it won't work, why don't you try it? You have 2 different models to follow. We have plenty of content about this on the internet. Exactly. It's not that hard anymore. I mean, back when you and I were getting started, we didn't have models. We had to make up our own.
Right. It's like,
shit. It was hard back then.
There's nothing out there, but also it's like I think what happens is that because most people don't have game and they don't understand like interactions with women, they haven't like put in the type of work that we put in. A lot of what people think, a lot of what especially men think, they're trying to play the game based off of ignorance. So it's like when you don't go out there and you don't actually involve yourself in real situations, you think things are a certain way based off of what you heard versus what you've experienced. So like when you were saying where you was like, look, I was dating all these people, I was doing all these things at a roster, this type of women, you've experienced it in real time, how it feels to be a man in those situations. Whereas the average guy, he's not actually making his own decisions and living the type of life he wants to. He's going along with what society says and just following that current. So therefore, he doesn't even know that, he doesn't even realize that he's not at first taking control over his own life and his own situation. And what I liked about what you said in the seminar earlier when we were filming it was that you were saying that, you told your wife, hey, listen, this is how I'm going to be living my life. If you want to be down, then this is what it is. If not, then just letting you know now. So it's like you're creating the type of relationships and the type of life you want. You understand? And that's what I try to teach a lot of guys is you have to create the relationship and the type of situation that you want so that you can actually have the type of life you want, because that's how you'll actually have that type of happiness. You see what I mean?
And society was not designed to make you happy.
Right.
That's not the way society was designed. Society was designed to George Carlin's talked about this. A lot of other people talked about this before me. Society is designed to create, it's a beta male factory, so we want to produce good little drones who can operate the machinery and just smart enough to operate, as George Carlin said, just smart enough to operate the machinery and do the paperwork.
Exactly.
And that's it. Go to college, go into debt, buy a house, go get a traditional monogamous marriage, have 2.3 kids. None of these things were designed to make you happy. They were designed to make society function well for the elites, which is fine. It's fine. You could argue that there's some functions behind these things, but you don't have to do them. And that's the bottom line, is that society, all these societal models were not built with your happiness in mind. Nor were they built with your preferences in mind or even your biology in mind. They're built for what the guys at the top want to see in terms of how well they can manage and control society. So what are you doing? Who do you live for? Do you live for society or do you live for yourself? I know I live for it. Especially these days, when society's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I'd rather live for myself. And if I want to help society, I've talked about this. When you're getting laid left and right, and you're making tons of money, and your life is good, you're healthy, and your life is good. If then you want to spend time saving society or adhering to societal models, but then you won't want to, then go ahead. But take care of yourself first. I love these guys on the internet who try to get like politically active and things like that, and they're guys who make like $32,000 a year, and they haven't had sex in 8 months. And what the fuck are you doing?
Exactly. And since we put this on both of our channels, shout out, tell everybody where they can find you. So for them watching on my channel, they can check out all your stuff and products or whatever good stuff. So I have 2 brands. I have, if you go to calebjones.com, that's a sovereign CEO, and that's where I teach building a location-dependent company for yourself, so you can have income regardless of where you are in the world, and moving to other countries and things like that. Or you go to alphamale20.com, and that's where all the non-monogamous and dating stuff, relationship management stuff is for men. So both those websites. And where do they find you? If you guys are watching on Caleb's channel, make sure that you guys find me at MrLocario.com. That's my main site. You can get my books, DVD programs, and also check out my other site, badboymembership.com. That's my membership site where you get 45 to 90-minute audio and video dating advice tutorials every month. So make sure you check that out, and also hit me up on Instagram at Real Mr. Locario. So
if you like his stuff, you'll like my stuff. If you like my stuff, you'll like his stuff. We are just whoever you're watching, whoever's new to you, go to the other person. You'll be very, very happy.
Exactly. So yeah, man, appreciate you, brother.
Awesome, dude.
All right, man. So you got
have fun, guys.
Peace.
Bye.